He's been called everything from a financial terrorist to a modern-day Robin Hood. His name elicits strong reactions across the political spectrum. Love him or hate him, George Soros has wielded immense influence throughout his career as an investor and philanthropist. But who is George Soros? In this video, we'll explore his remarkable rags-to-riches story, uncover the sources of his billions, and investigate the controversial ways he spent his fortune. Was he a predator who destabilized economies, or a humanitarian who fought for freedom? By the end, you'll have a balanced perspective on one of the most polarizing figures in modern history. George Soros is undoubtedly one of the most successful and controversial investors and philanthropists of our time. Born in 1930 in Hungary, Soros lived through the Nazi occupation during WW II before fleeing to England as a refugee in 1947. After graduating from the London School of Economics, he moved to the United States and entered the world of finance. Soros established his hedge fund, Soros Fund Management, in 1970, and went on to become one of the most profitable investors ever, amassing a personal fortune of over $8 billion. While Soros is best known as the man who broke the Bank of England after netting $1 billion by shorting the British pound in 1992, his philanthropic work through his Open Society foundations has also made headlines. So what's the real story behind this complex character? Is Soros a predator who disrupts economies for his own gain? Or is he a self-made humanitarian dedicated to fighting for open societies? In this video, we'll take a balanced look at Soros's background, investment career, and philanthropic efforts to understand the man behind the controversy. George Soros's early life. George Soros was born György Schwarz in 1930 in Budapest, Hungary, to a relatively affluent, non-observant Jewish family. His father, Tivadar, was a lawyer, and his mother, Erzsébet, was from a merchant family. In 1936, Soros's family changed their name from Schwarz to Soros to protect themselves as anti-Semitism rose in Hungary. In 1944, when Soros was 14, Nazi Germany occupied Hungary. Soros's father split up the family to improve their chances of survival, bribing government officials to conceal their Jewish identities. Soros lived with a Hungarian agriculture ministry employee, posing as his Christian godson. Later, Soros reflected on how his father's actions taught him to be self-reliant and to recognize how cunning and unscrupulous people can manipulate the system. Soros survived the Holocaust, which claimed the lives of over 500,000 Hungarian Jews. After WW II, Soros left Hungary in 1947 to study at the London School of Economics. There he was exposed to the work of philosopher Karl Popper, who would have a major influence on his thinking. Popper's critique of totalitarianism shaped Soros's ideology, emphasizing open societies, bias-free critical thinking, and personal autonomy. Entry into finance. After graduating from the London School of Economics in 1952, Soros struggled to find work at an investment bank in London before taking an entry-level job at Singer and A.M. Friedlander. He worked as a European securities analyst and then a vice president of arbitrage, learning about buying securities in one market and selling them at a higher price in another. In 1956, Soros immigrated to the United States and held analyst and investment management positions at F.M. Mayer, Wertheim and AMP Company, and Arnhold and AMP's Bleichroeder. In 1973, Soros launched his own hedge fund, Soros Fund Management, with about $12 million. Soros's fund was one of a new breed of hedge funds called a quantum fund, which used complex derivative instruments to make highly leveraged bets in all types of markets. Soros had an uncanny talent for speculating in global currency and commodity markets. His strategy was to identify bubbles and mispricings in assets and then borrow heavily to bet on a correction. Major wins and controversies. Soros rose to fame in 1992 when he earned $1 billion in profits by short selling, betting against the British pound, forcing the UK to pull out of the European exchange rate mechanism. This earned him the title, "the man who broke the Bank of England." Soros had correctly anticipated that the British pound was overvalued. After Soros's massive short position was disclosed, investors panicked and dumped pounds. Unable to prop up the currency without raising interest rates during a recession, the British government withdrew from the ERM, and the pound plummeted. Soros converted his holdings back to stronger currencies, netting about $1 billion. While Soros was celebrated as the winner in this deal, it also carried controversy. The UK's dramatic exit from the ERM caused its stock market and economy to slump, earning Soros enemies who viewed him as a greedy speculator. While Soros claimed to simply understand the instability of fixed exchange rates better than others, some accused him of deliberately manipulating the market for his own gain with little care for the economic fallout. To this day, many British view Soros negatively for the pound crisis. Similar theories that Soros engineers currency crises for profit have followed him throughout his career. During the Asian financial crisis of 1997, Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir bin Mohamad accused Soros of deliberately devaluing the Malaysian ringgit by short-selling it. Calling Soros a moron and a criminal, Mohamad claimed Soros's trading exacerbated economic turmoil in Malaysia and neighboring Asian countries. Soros defended his practices, claiming he simply identified weaknesses and invested accordingly. Activism and philanthropy. Much of the controversy surrounding Soros stems from his activism and philanthropy, in addition to his investment activities. In 1984, Soros founded Open Society Foundations, originally Open Society Institute, a grant-making network that financially supports civil society groups and pro-democracy causes around the world. A major focus area has been Soros's native Eastern Europe. Soros viewed the fall of communism in the late 80s and early 90s as an opportunity to transform closed authoritarian societies into vibrant democracies through large-scale philanthropy. The Open Society Foundation spent over $400 million supporting everything from student exchanges to independent media to public health initiatives across Eastern and Central Europe in the 1990s and 2000s. While many welcomed this philanthropy as humanitarian, others saw it as Soros self-servingly exerting political influence. Soros advocated strongly for open borders and was accused of engineering the refugee crisis in Europe during Syria's civil war. The Open Society Foundations did spend over $500 million supporting refugee and migrant rights groups and opposing government restrictions. Soros argued for a consistent open border policy aligned with his ideology, while critics claimed he deliberately stirred migration to undermine regional governments and social cohesion. Beyond Eastern Europe, Soros has been active in philanthropic efforts in over 100 countries. He donated over $75 million trying to defeat George Bush in the 2004 U.S. presidential election, claiming Bush's policies contradicted Soros's vision of an open society. This activism earned Soros scorn from Republicans, who considered his donations frivolous or self-interested. During the late 80s and 90s, Soros donated large sums supporting the African National Congress against apartheid in South Africa. He has also been involved in pro-democracy and social justice initiatives across Africa, Latin America, Asia, and the U.S. What motivates George Soros? Supporters claim he applies his wealth to building more open, transparent societies where individual liberty and human rights prevail. Having lived through persecution, Soros believes in using his fortune for the greater good and helping those without a political voice. Critics argue that Soros skillfully cloaks self-serving motives under the guise of promoting freedom. They accuse him of inappropriately wielding his wealth to engineer political outcomes that will increase his influence or destabilize governments he opposes. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. Undoubtedly, Soros's formative experiences and Popper's teachings on open society serve as his guides. His philanthropy sincerely aims to build more democratic, tolerant societies. However, his activism and sometimes ruthless financial tactics have unnerved governments that view him as a subversive outsider. Soros believes society must be questioned and progress requires destabilizing forces. While this has aided oppressed groups, it has also disrupted economies for his own gain. Few figures in modern history have wielded Soros's level of financial and philanthropic clout without elected office. His immense wealth, combined with his sense of moral authority, has granted him extraordinary influence over world events. The effects have been both celebrated as empowering and criticized as reckless. Yet Soros has never shied from bold intervention when he perceives an opportunity to realize his vision of progress, whether through currency speculation or funding activists. His legacy will be defined by perspectives on whether such intervention achieves meaningful reform or reflects imprudent ideological ambition. No matter one's views on Soros, examining his background lends useful perspective for deciphering his complex impact on global finance, politics, and social justice.